Howdy, howdy, hi. Can you guys hear me okay? Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Mary had a little lamb. Over. Wonderful. Welcome, everybody. Hello, Danielle. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Stefan. Hello, Pink Meadows, who's almost always the first to jump online. That always makes me smile. Thank you for being here, everybody. I'm getting things set up. How's the audio? Is it loud enough? Good morning. Good morning, DJ. Hey, David, how are you? Hello, Hollies. Great to see you. As you jump online, please share where you're jumping online from. Larry, representing Hamilton, Ohio, is in the house. Dina, thank you for the thumbs up about the sound. Hello, Megan. Hello, Butterfly Angel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Aaron Boster here. Excited to go live on this July 20th, beautiful Saturday here in Columbus, Ohio. We'll be going live at the top of the hour at 11 a.m. sharp, answering your questions. Got representation from Australia and India and Kuwait. Maryland's in the house. Go Blue, Michigan is in the house. Derek's representing Canada. New Mexico is here. Arizona is here. Hello, everyone. Illinois representing Jacksonville, Florida is in the house. What's going on from Greece? Chicago and Arkansas is in the house. Glasgow, Scotland is there. I had a really fun evening in Glasgow years ago. Liverpool representing. We've got NYC in the house. Missouri is in the house. This is fantastic. Mexico representing. The Jersey Shore representing. Miamisburg, Ohio is in the house. This is fantastic. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Connor's online. Great to see you, sir. Massachusetts representing. Boston's in the house with Anna. Thank you for being here. Humble, New York is in the house. Gus is from Greece. Welcome. Phyllis is from Cali. We've got Long Island, New York in the house. I am so excited that everybody is here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This will be the July Ask Me Anything live stream. I am super excited to connect with you today. Copenhagen is in the house. I love Copenhagen. I spent about a week in Denmark years back, and it was magical. And I've never met nicer people than when I was walking through the streets of Copenhagen. Everybody was friendly, it seemed like. Minnesota is in the house. Raleigh, North Carolina representing. Sunny, Florida is in the house. Columbus, Ohio, what's up? What's up? Hello, everybody. As we're getting ready, as you jump online, please share where you're jumping online from. It's so amazing to go back through the live stream after it ends and look where this growing global online village has amassed. It fills my heart with joy. So definitely share where you're logging on from when you jump online. Also, when we start the Ask Me Anything live stream, please remember to make your questions generalizable. I'm not able to diagnose or treat you on the interwebs. This live stream is for education. It's for empowerment. It's to energize, it's to up your game and give you information so that you can be a more active member of your own care. I am excited to talk with each and every one of you. I'm going to make a poll here. Would you like a didactic lecture today about comprehensive MS care? No, just do an AMA. All right, guys, I'm putting a poll in the chat. There's 81 of you that have jumped on early. That's amazing. Take a moment and answer the polling question if you would. I've asked, would you like me to do a didactic lecture today, kind of from a 10,000-foot view, sharing how we manage comprehensive multiple sclerosis care from soup to nuts? If you would like me to share that information in a didactic lecture today on the live stream, let me know. Otherwise, I'll stick with our tried and true Ask Me Anything MS. Either way, I'm looking forward to having a great time with you. Take a second to answer the poll if you haven't yet. We've got people logging in from Ontario, Canada. Welcome, MA. Welcome, Sue from England. It's great to see you all. Butterfly Angel, hello, howdy, hi. Andrew is in the house representing New Mexico. This is so fantastic. Diane, it's great to see you. Brisbane, Australia representing. Clement, thank you for being here today. Chrissy's already got flames in the chat. I'm loving that, of course. Northwest England is in the house. This is fantastic. I'm so excited to see all of you. Just Leah finishing up some paperwork for the Boster Center for Multiple Sclerosis. I am delighted that you're going to be coming over so that we can connect. Spoon Productions is in the house. We've got Happily Ever After Productions from the Netherlands. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Liz from Ireland. It is great to see you guys. So Gus asks a really super question. And Gus, bring that up during the chat, during the live stream at the top of the hour, because I would love to tackle that question. As you jump online, please grab a beverage. Of course, we're going to be doing the MS Water Challenge. I've got my water at the ready, and of course, coffee because it's not 2 o'clock yet. We've got Ian representing England in the house, and Raj is from India. Alex from Port Clinton, Ohio, representing OHIO. This is fantastic. There's 85 of you that have jumped online. I'm going to step away for a hot second so that I can get a few things ready here in this room, and we will be going live at the top of the hour. Say hello, hi to your neighbors. Welcome each other as you join this growing global online village. Walter's representing the Netherlands. It's an amazing place to visit. I have had so much fun visiting the canals of Amsterdam. Lisa's asking questions. That's a great question. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll be right back. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. It is 10:39 on a gorgeous sunny day here in Columbus, Ohio. Aaron Boster here, gearing up to launch the July Ask Me Anything live stream. I am super excited to connect with you at the top of the hour. There are people rolling in. There's 88 of you that have jumped online early. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. I've put a polling question in the chat. If you haven't had a chance to answer that question, please take a quick second and click your answer. I'm asking today whether we should stick with our tried and true Ask Me Anything MS, or should I include a didactic lecture on comprehensive MS care? Based on the polling answers, we will determine what in fact we do. Jenny Lee, representing Springfield, Ohio. Jenny B, I love a restaurant in Springfield, Ohio. The Speakeasy Cafe probably has the best ramen I've ever tasted. I don't know if you've had a chance to go there or not. Alexis, what's going on? And hey, Katie, nice to see you today. Thank you all for joining me. We've got Elizabeth representing sunny Mansfield, Ohio, and it is beautiful outside today. There are 93 of you that have jumped online. Jenny B feeling in love with some ramen in the house. So MD Stacks asked a question about weed and MS. Very topical question. Excellent question. We will address that today. Just Leah, we are running 15 clinical trials at the Boster Center for Multiple Sclerosis. That's 1-5. There is more MS research going on now than I've ever seen in my entire career. Research abounds. There are many, many trials that we are actively enrolling for right now. It is a very exciting time to be involved in clinical trials research in multiple sclerosis. Kathy's in the house. Welcome, Kathy. Welcome, Carly. Welcome, Sue. Great to see you. Daniel's in the house. That is a great question, Dan. I would be happy to answer that question. Please make sure to serve it up when we go live in just 19 short minutes. Welcome, 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 everybody. Aaron Boster here from the Boster Center for Multiple Sclerosis, where we care for families impacted by MS from around the globe. I am so excited that you're jumping online to join me today. Australia is in the house. New York is in the house. We've got Monica representing Long Island. It's great to see you today. Tell the truth. That's a great handle. I really like that. Just Leah, of course, is in the house. As you guys jump online, share where you're jumping online from, please. Also, when we go live with an Ask Me Anything, please keep in mind that I can't diagnose or treat you on the interwebs. I try to make your questions generalizable so that I can provide educational information along with empowerment and hopefully a good interaction and a good time. I'm so glad to be here with you. Dayton, Ohio is in the house. Abigail from Belgium. Where in Belgium do you hail from, Abigail? I spent a week in Flemish Belgium. It was amazing. I had a great time, a lot of really nice people. Canada is in the house, the burden of proofreading. These are some great names popping up. Hello, Carl, representing England. It is great to see you today. East Texas is in the house. What's going on, guys? Hey, Diane, good to see you. Thank you for voting. Beverly, thank you for being here. Oh, great, Abigail. Thank you very much. Oh, you guys are too kind. Lisa suggests that you smash the like button. If you guys do like this content, if you enjoy these Ask Me Anything live streams, hitting the like button is an easy breezy cover girl way of letting the YouTube algorithm that you like this content. It helps push it out so more people impacted by MS can benefit. Cynthia representing Oakland. We've got Stefan from Sweden, and Austin is in the house. What's up, yo? Mero Log representing Cologne, Germany. That's an amazing part of the world. Tell the Truth is definitely in the house. Yes, Lisa, that's right. Cover girl. Getting ready to go live in 15 short minutes. There's 102 of you that have jumped online. If you have not answered the polling question yet, please take a moment to do so. I'm asking if we should stick with our tried and true Ask Me Anything MS exclusively, or should we include a didactic lecture on comprehensive MS care? Deneen Babin is in the house. Deneen and Doug driving back from their home in Michigan. It is great to see you both online. An AMA is an Ask Me Anything, where you ask me a question about multiple sclerosis and I give you my best answer. We've got the Little League World Series in Central Pennsylvania. What's going on? Hey, Kathy. You said you'd enjoy any topic I want to cover. That is so kind of you. Thank you very much. Muskingum, Michigan is in the house. This is fantastic. Welcome. Hey, Sonia, how are you doing? How are you doing? Mama Bear in Naples, Florida. I'm digging that. This is super. Australia's in the house. A little bit hot this summer, I'm hearing. Thank you for being here, folks. Thank you very much for joining me. If you haven't yet answered the polling question, please do so. We'll be closing the polling in about 5 short minutes. Get your beverages ready for the MS Water Challenge. Coffee at the ready if you have a chance. Missouri is in the house. Hey, Cheyenne, thank you for being here. Jenny representing Florida. Whereabouts in Florida are you from, Jenny? Share with us the region. Florida is quite a long state. There's 102 of you that have jumped online. Wowzers, that's really, really awesome. Isabel from Madrid, Spain. Madrid is a magical city. I have a good friend I got to visit in Madrid years ago. I also took a cruise out of Madrid. What a magical place. Some delicious seafood there. Gainesville is in the house. What's going on, Jenny? Thank you for that. Good morning and welcome, everyone. Aaron Boster here. 15 short minutes until the top of the hour when we go live. I am so excited to talk with you today for this July Ask Me Anything live stream, where you will serve up questions about multiple sclerosis and I will knock them out of the park. And if enough people vote in the right direction, we'll also be doing a didactic lecture today on comprehensive MS care. I'm going to step away and mute my mic for a quick second. As you get comfy and cozy, pull up a chair and grab a beverage, share where you're logging on from, and get ready for a dynamic Ask Me Anything live stream. Sonia's in the house representing Northern Colorado. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is 10:50. We have 10 minutes until we go live at the top of the hour. This is Aaron Boster welcoming you to the July live stream, Ask Me Anything Multiple Sclerosis. There's been a polling question open for about 15 minutes, and I'm closing it right now. The jury is in. 83 of you voted to have a didactic lecture, and so I will be delivering a didactic chit-chat on comprehensive MS care in addition to an Ask Me Anything live stream. I'm excited for today. Welcome very much for being here. I'm so excited. As you jump online, share where you're jumping online from. Christina is calling in from Virginia. Welcome. Thank you for being here today. As you jump online, of course, share where you're jumping online from. It's amazing to go back through the live stream after it's over and see where each and every one of these village members have amassed. This growing global online village warms my heart. Carrie Perry representing small town in Indiana. Carrie, it is great to see you today. Thank you for being here. Roanoke is in the house. What's going on, Kim? K-Roll is in the house. Melissa from Arkansas. Mark from Tennessee. We got MB representing Columbus, Ohio. OH-IO. Stella's World, the Liverpool in UK. We've got the Bahamas representing. Wow, that's really cool, K-Roll. I think a lot of us are jealous. We've got the Bay Area, and that's a great name. Mark, it's great to see you from New Jersey. Welcome, Amanda, representing Ohio. Missy's in the house. Thank you very much for being here today. Dave is my name. Thank you for jumping online. We're going to go live in 8 short minutes. Grab your water for the MS Water Challenge. Robert Wilhelm is in the house. Robert, I hope you and yours are doing great today. Thank you for jumping online. Pensacola, Florida representing. Hello, Missy. Thanks for being here. Susan's in the house representing Arizona. Sorcha, it is great to see you. As always, we love hearing from you and thank you for supporting this channel. Sorcha's an OG, been around for a minute. Love seeing you here today. Dominic is in the house representing Istanbul. Hey, Renee, we've got Iran represented. That's amazing, Mohammed. Thank you so much for being here today. The UK is in the house. New York City representing, of course. This is fantastic. 8 minutes until we go live. Florida is here. Denmark is here. Indiana is here. This is phenomenal. There's 109 of you that have jumped online. 4QMS, an amazing moderator and a good friend of the channel and an amazing gentleman. If you guys are not familiar with our moderator 4QMS, definitely say hello, howdy, hi. He has a fantastic YouTube channel and you've got to check it out. He also has a great presence on Twitter and I love seeing him on social media. As always, 4QMS, thanks for being here, buddy. Betty Ballard's in the house. What's going on? Ireland representing. There's 111 of you that have jumped online. Earlier during this preamble to the live stream, I sent out a polling question and the votes are in. We're going to go with a didactic lecture today, in addition to the Ask Me Anything live stream. Doug Tagg is in the house, another OG moderator. Coffee in hand. I hope that you're doing well, my friend. John Cox is in the house. Great to see you today. This is fantastic. Bonita, thank you for being here. Lisa, thank you for being here. Welcome, everybody. We're going to be going live in 6 short minutes. If you like these live streams, do me a kind favor and hit that like button. Smashing that like button teaches the YouTube algorithm that you dig this content and helps push it out so more people and families impacted by MS can benefit. We will go live at the top of the hour. These are wonderful questions, and I'm going to be tackling them. Hey, guys, look, a good friend of the channel, none other than Dr. Brandon Bieber is in the house. Dr. Bieber is a friend of mine and an amazing MS neurologist out in Los Angeles. He has a dynamic YouTube channel, so if you have not checked out Dr. Brandon Bieber's YouTube channel, you must do so. Brandon, feel free to put a link in the chat so that people can easily find you. Dr. Bieber puts out a rock star YouTube video every Wednesday. I look forward to them. I learn a lot from this guy. He's a friend of the channel and quite an amazing MS neurologist, if I must say so. We've got Cassie in the house representing Nashville, Tennessee. We've got folks coming in from all over God's green earth, filling my heart with joy. We're going to be going live at the top of the hour in 5 short minutes. Everybody say hi to Dr. Bieber. Give him a hi and a hello. Give him a wave. Show him some love. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, make sure that you do so. It is a dynamic place with a lot of learning going on. These are great questions, Kim. Hold them for 5 minutes from now when we go live. Martin is in the house. Great to see you. Thank you for gathering, everybody. Mama Bear, great to see you as well. Dave says that Dr. Bieber is amazing, and I share your opinion. He is pretty fantastic. Brandon, thanks for being here today. That's pretty awesome of you. I appreciate you. 4 minutes until we go live. Hey, Dina. Miss Torres is in the house. New York representing. This is fantastic. There's 113 of you. We have 4 minutes until we go live. Now, guys, you know what we do just before we go live. We want to teach the YouTube algorithm that you are pumped for today, and we do that by filling the chat with flames. So get your flame emojis at the ready and get ready to start filling the chat with flames. You know how we do it here. Where in Europe do you hail from, Marco? Share with us where you're calling in from. Kevin Finch joining us after some time away. There you go. Jenny's got the right idea. New Jersey's in the house. Cassie's in the house. Show flames. This is how we show love on this channel. Teach the YouTube algorithm that you dig what's going on and fill up the chat with flames, guys. We've only got 3 minutes. It is flame time. Christina's got the right idea. Lisa's got the right idea. Victoria is leading the way with flames galore. Flame up the chat. We want to see the entire chat filled with the flames these last couple minutes right before we go live. It's going to be a really fun morning, guys. I am so happy to be here with you. This is Aaron Boster from the Boster Center for Multiple Sclerosis, getting ready to flame on, as Butterfly Angel puts out. I love that. Flames are in the house. Dave is my name. What Makes Sense has got flames. Missy's got flames. Mama Bear's got, yeah, you guys got it. Holly is in the house. Torres, you got flames. I love it. Amanda, get it going. Mark representing Queens. It Makes Sense. Carrie Perry showing some fireworks galore. This is fantastic. Jenny Bean showing flames. Monica showing flames. Thank you for the flames, everyone. Periwinkle showing the way. We're going to go live in 2 very short minutes. I am pumped to answer your Ask Me Anything MS questions and to deliver a didactic lecture. Look at that chat. I'm getting a tan from all that heat. Keep those flames going for 2 more short minutes. You know how we do's it. Show the YouTube algorithm that you dig this content. Your flames and your comments get this fired up and push it out so more people impacted by MS can benefit. Kat has got the right idea. Look at that with flames galore. Sonia B is in the house. I am getting ready in 2 short minutes. We're going to be going live, turning the camera on, answering your questions, and delivering a didactic lecture on comprehensive MS care today. We've got a lot in store. David Arnold's got the right idea. Paula's got the right idea. Hey, Jude, thank you for that. We're going to go live in 1 short minute. Keep the flames coming all the way until the top of the hour. You know how we do it, guys. That is phenomenal. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Pull up a chair. We have less than 60 seconds left. Holly's in the house. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, I love those flames. Here we go. We're getting ready for the top of the hour. We have seconds before we go live. Keep those flames going. Don't let them stop. You know how we do it right up until the top of the hour. What Makes Sense? Show those flames. Dave is my name, showing flames. James has got flames. Sonia's got flames. Literally staring at the clock as the seconds tick down. We're going to go live exactly at 11 o'clock in seconds from now. I can feel the energy in the room. I am so excited to be here with you. And it's on! Hey! Hello, howdy, hi, everyone. Aaron Boster here. I am absolutely to be excited. I am energized. I am pumped. Thank you very much for joining me today. As you all recall, the Boster Center for MS is committed to upping your game, to energizing, empowering, and invigorating, educating people impacted and families impacted by MS. My name's Aaron Boster. There's 140 of you that have already jumped online. Thank you very much. I noticed that Bluthden just joined us, an amazing moderator and helping out. As you jump online, as always, please share where you're jumping online from. It's amazing to see where this growing global online village has amassed. It warms my heart. So share where you're coming from when you jump online. Additionally, as we go through and Ask Me Anything MS and you pose your questions, please keep in mind that I can't diagnose or treat you specifically on the interwebs. You need to ask the questions in a generalizable way so that everyone can benefit. During our 30-minute warm-up to going live today, I posed a polling question asking if we should just stick with our standard Ask Me Anything MS question and answer session, or if we should, in addition, do a didactic lecture talking about comprehensive care. Over 80% voted for the comprehensive care, and so we're going to fold that into the mix today. Thank you all for being here today. I am honored. I started this YouTube channel, which is Aaron Boster MD. I started the channel back in 2015, and it was my intention to put out some YouTube videos to help educate, to empower, and to energize families impacted by MS. It's going strong in 2024, and there are almost 72,000 subscribers that have joined this growing global online village. I am committed to doing a monthly Ask Me Anything live stream. We've been doing this since the Boster Center opened, and it's the highlight of my month. Thank you all for joining me today. If you like this content, share, chat, comment. That teaches the YouTube algorithm that you're in there like swimwear, and go ahead and click that like button. When you click the like button, it teaches the YouTube algorithm that you dig this content and helps push it out so more families impacted by MS can benefit. Let's start off with some Ask Me Anything. I'm going to take a few questions as we get comfortable and seated. And let's take a look here and find a great question from the audience. Let's look for our very first question. Here's a great question from Mark. So Mark says, any success using spinal cord stimulators for pain and spasticity? And the short answer is absolutely yes, Mark, but let's unpack this a little bit. When I attended medical school, I was taught that MS does not cause pain. My professors were very, very wrong. MS is actually quite a painful condition, and there's all kinds of different flavors of pain that people impacted by MS can experience, unfortunately. One of the big sources of pain is spinal cord lesions. When the lateral aspects of the spinal cord can become damaged, it can cause a terrible neuropathic pain, which can feel like a burning, it can feel like ice, it can feel like you're being crushed, it can feel like you're being electrocuted, it can feel like you are itching and that you have an itch that just won't go away. These are all different forms of neuropathic pain, and we unfortunately see them all the time in the setting of multiple sclerosis. If you're listening right now and you have experienced neuropathic pain, put a description of what your neuropathic pain is like in the chat so that others can learn from you. And treating neuropathic pain is a big part of improving the quality of life of people impacted by MS. Because if you're in chronic pain, that's going to make everything worse. It's going to destroy and erode the quality of your life. And so at the Boster Center for MS, we are very keen on treating pain in people impacted by MS. Now, there's lots of different modalities for treating pain. There are lotions and potions, and there are a host of medicines that we can apply. We can enlist the assistance of pain doctors in introducing to you Medicine by Edison, a spinal cord stimulator. Spinal cord stimulation is really amazing. A spinal cord stimulator is a device which is implanted in a radiology suite. There are these two little thin leads. They look like little wires. And the surgeon will snake them in your back, inside your skin, on either side of your spinal cord. So I don't have enough props here, but here are the leads, and say my head is the spinal cord. All right, so they're on either side. And the leads, they have electrodes. So the electrodes can shoot electricity from one side to the other side, and you can bring electricity across that right across the spinal cord. And with a computer program, they can adjust the electricity, they can intensify it, they can decrease it, they can change the angle, they can change which leads are activated. And what it does is phenomenal. It literally can cancel out pain signals. And so I have seen significant success when patients impacted by MS who have damage from MS causing spinal cord pain can get it under control using a spinal cord stimulator. Now, one of the coolest things about spinal cord stimulation, at least in my opinion, is that you can test drive a spinal cord stimulator. So we don't meet someone, put leads in them, bury a battery inside their skin and say, good luck. We literally do a test drive, like when you test drive a car. You go into the suite, they put in temporary leads, and the battery comes out of your skin. You attach it onto your belt loop typically. And for about 2 weeks, you live with a temporary spinal cord stimulator. And you can find out firsthand if it's awesome sauce, if it sucks, if it's good, if it's bad, if it's purple, if it's green. You can find out for yourself if you benefit from spinal cord stimulation. Now, if the answer is no, okay, they pull the leads out, no harm, no foul, and then we can try a different modality to try to help your pain. But if it works, they bring you back to the procedural suite. They switch out the temporary leads for permanent ones. They implant a battery under the skin, and you are good to go. You meet with the spinal cord representatives, typically from the companies, and the manufacturer representatives can control the spinal cord stimulator and dial it in. Now, some of these newer spinal cord stimulators are really, really fancy pants. And they can adjust the spinal cord stimulation based on whether you're sitting, based on whether you're standing, based on whether you're active, based on whether you're sleeping. They can do a host of things to adjust the electrical intensity to help you and your discomfort. It's a pretty neat therapy. One of the things that is super McDuper important, this is very, very important, so super important, is that when you are thinking about a spinal cord stimulator, it is critically important that you get an MRI-compatible spinal cord stimulator. An MRI-compatible spinal cord stimulator is really important in MS because you have a condition which can cause central nervous system demyelination. It can cause damage to the brain and spinal cord. And one of the very important ways that we measure spinal cord and brain involvement is by getting MRIs. Now, if you have a spinal cord stimulator that is MRI compatible, you are good in the hood, and you can enjoy that spinal cord stimulator, and the MS neurologist can continue to monitor you successfully with serial MRIs. If, on the other hand, you have an old school spinal cord stimulator which is not MRI compatible, that creates a very serious problem because we can no longer image you. So, when you're exploring spinal cord stimulation, you want to say to the pain doctor 84 times, hey, are you sure this one's MRI compatible? And I would actually make them prove that to you. That was a fantastic question, Mark. Thank you very much for asking it. That was a great way of kicking off this Ask Me Anything live stream. And so here's a question queued up by none other than Bluthton, one of our amazing moderators, who writes, I read eating fruit skins and had myelin repair of MS in mice. Is there any human research looking at that? And so this brings up a really good point. We don't do scary experiments on humans. That's completely unethical. And a lot of times when we're studying science, we will test out the scientific ideas on animals like mice or rats. And there are a lot of models of multiple sclerosis it's called a mouse model, where we manipulate a mouse to make them have a syndrome which is kind of like MS, and then we try to cure it. The most common mouse model is something called the EAE model, and it's been used in research laboratories for many, many years as a testing ground to test concepts in MS. Here's the thing. Humans are not mice, and mice are not humans, and mice have really, really cool and weird immune systems. And so sometimes when we test out something in a mouse, it looks very, very promising. And then when you move over to the human, it doesn't work out. And so I, as a clinician, as a human doctor taking care of humans with multiple sclerosis, look at mouse data with a grain of salt. I'm not saying it's not important. It is important. But it's not until we get into the human model, so to speak, that I really start to pay attention. Now, it turns out that we can cure mouse MS, these EAE models of MS, very easily. I just reflect that it doesn't always translate into humans. I'll give you a quick example. After I say hello, howdy, hi to none other than Jim Christensen. Jim, hello, good sir. I hope you're doing awesome today. I also want to give a shout out to another amazing moderator and friend of the channel, none other than Marla Hopkins. What's up? It's great to see both of you on the channel today. Now, a quick story about mouse research in MS. Many, many years ago when I was in training, I was a resident, very interested in MS. I knew that I was going to be an MS doctor when I finished on my training, and I spent a lot of time with my university's MS specialist, an amazing guy named Dr. Dan Michael. Dan Michael is an MD, PhD. He now works in pharma, doing great research, and I learned a lot from him when I was at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. He was one of my mentors when I was in residency learning about MS. And I was a little nerd, very excited about MS, and I would read research papers about MS all the time. And I found an exciting research paper which suggested they could cure mouse EAE MS, so a mouse model of MS, by giving these mice really high-dose cholesterol medicines, statin medicines. And I thought, wow! And so I took the paper to Dr. Michael and I said, Dr. Michael, look at this. This is amazing. We can cure mouse model of MS by giving high-dose statins. Could we please give our MS patients high-dose statins? And Dr. Michael took the paper and looked at it and he smiled and he said, Aaron, thank you for looking at this. That's really great. But maybe we should wait until we test it in humans. Turns out that the very first research looking at high-dose statins, in addition to interferons, seemed to make the MS worse. And it taught me one hey of a lesson, that it is really important to wait until you get into a human model before you make big decisions. That was a great question, as always, Bluthton. Thank you very much for asking it. And thank you to 185 of you that have saw fit to jump online today. That is absolutely amazing. It's time for the MS Water Challenge, yo. When I drink, you drink, so drink up, guys. MS Water Challenge. This is delicious seltzer water. Woo, that's good. All right, let's take another question. Taking a quick look to find an awesome sauce question. So here's a really cool question from Jenny. And so Jenny has a question about the MRI. Do MS lesions shown on the MRI mean permanent damage? If there's remyelination in an area, will the lesion disappear on future MRIs? And so that's a really, really good question. And it lets us talk for a few minutes about MRI technology, and how we learn about it, and how it can inform information about multiple sclerosis. So any of you that have had a clinical MRI, you're familiar with the concept. You climb inside the tube, and it's really loud. It makes a bunch of different noises. So you'll be laying in there, and it'll go bing, 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 bing for a bunch of minutes. And then it'll get quiet for a second. It'll go bang, 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 bang. And it makes different kinds of noises. Each different kind of noise is a different kind of picture which is being taken. And when they're done with the MRI, we get an MRI opportunity to go through all the images. And there are different pictures. Some of them have white spots. Some of them have dark spots. Some of them have enhancement when we give contrast. Some don't. And each of those different kinds of images teach us different things about the pathology going on in your noggin. So the most common spot that we see in the MRI is the bright spot. Okay. Now the technical nerd term is a T2 hyperintensity, because God forbid we just said bright spot. That would be like way too easy to understand. And a T2 hyperintensity is a white spot on the MRI, has nothing to do with contrast, and it represents an area of water. It's literally a puddle of water. Not a puddle like outside, but like a microscopic puddle of water, and that shows up as bright on these scans. It doesn't tell us why it's there. It tells us where. It doesn't tell us when it occurred, it just tells us the location. And importantly, it doesn't tell us the kind of pathology. So, if you have a new demyelinating lesion, it's going to be bright. If you have an area that is remyelinating, it's going to be bright. If the lesion occurred 20 years ago, it's going to be bright. And if it happened this morning, it's going to be bright. So those bright spots don't tell us about the underlying pathophysiology. Now the question is, do the lesions always represent permanent damage? Not always. Oftentimes they do, but not always. If you have a very, very active lesion, all right, it can be big and nasty and kind of look swollen and very scary. And as the inflammation dies down, that lesion can shrink in size, and every once in a while they can go away. But that's not common. I think just for easy thought processes, when you see a bright spot on the MRI, you should anticipate that it's probably going to be there forever. And there are, of course, exceptions. But what I want to leave you with is this is a way of looking at the structure of the brain and spinal cord. Now, structural imaging is very, very important. It's not the end-all, be-all. I tell patients, you are not an MRI. You're a human, and the MRI is a picture of structure, but it's a very important picture of structure. I'll use an analogy. If I drove by your house and I snapped a snapshot of the outside of your house, I don't know whether or not you're having dinner. I also don't know whether you're having an argument. All I know is that there's a roof and it seems to be intact, and there's walls and they seem to be intact, and there's a door which appears closed, and there's windows that seem to be intact. I just have some information about the structure, not about the function. And so that snapshot of your house teaches me some things, but not all the things. And I think an MRI is very, very similar. That is an excellent question. Thank you for asking it, Jenny, and thank you to 190 of you that have jumped online. I am definitely a little bit thirsty, and so we're going to do a second MS Water challenge right away. When I drink, you know how we do it. And let me switch up the scene here. Little spooky music. This is my Northern Lights scene. I hope that you like it. And let's take another question. Here's a question from Kate. So Kate Merwin writes in and says, after a patient finishes Mavenclad, cladribine tablets, but is experiencing progression, do you recommend that they start taking Imbagio to slow the progression? That is a great question. And I really like this question because it's very real world, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about several different things. So Kate, thank you for being here today, and thank you for asking such an intelligent question. Sorry, I've belched a little bit with this seltzer water, but it's so good. So why do we take disease-modifying therapies? We take disease-modifying therapies in MS to slow down the disease. Ideally, we want no further MS attacks, and we want no new spots on MRI. Ideally, we also want no change on the neuro exam, so no progression of disability. And we want normal rates of brain volume loss. And if we hit all four of those things, that's a metric that I shoot for in my clinic called NEDA-4, no evidence of disease activity 4, because there are four things. And the likelihood that we can achieve that for the whole life of the patient is not very high. I would say it's actually nearly impossible because our medicines aren't 100%. And so, as a result, we have to monitor patients to see if the drugs are keeping things at bay. And here's an example where Kate says, someone takes Mavenclad, and Mavenclad is the king of the pills, in my opinion. Mavenclad is a discontinuous medicine. It's a pill that you take Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the first month, and that's it for the whole month. And then the second month, you go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you're done for the rest of the year, which is cool and weird. So you're only taking 10 pills the first year. And then a year later, on the anniversary, you take 5 pills and then 5 pills, so 10 pills the second year, and then you're done being treated unless you have new disease activity, which is really neat. Mavenclad works in a weird way because it's not blocking cells or killing cells, it's rebooting your immune system, particularly an aspect of the adaptive immune system called the humoral system, or the B-cell compartment. And after we give Mavenclad, we don't retreat the human being unless they have new disease activity. When you look at the clinical trials, when I say new disease activity, I'm talking about new spots on the brain or a new attack. And let's be honest, identifying a new spot or a new attack is not hard because they're very serious, significant events. When you lose vision in your eye and it hurts when you move it and you have an optic neuritis, God forbid, that doesn't go unnoticed. And if that happened after Mavenclad, or any drug for that matter, we would be concerned about breakthrough disease activity. Similarly, if you've been on Mavenclad or some other drug, and then we get a future MRI and we see a new white spot, that suggests radiologic breakthrough disease. And in both of those cases, it would drive the neurologist, I would hope, to consider an escalation of therapy, either giving a third course of Mavenclad or escalating to another MS medicine to gain better control of the disease. But that is not Kate's question. Kate says, if I take Mavenclad and then afterwards I'm having progression of disability, should I go on to a different medicine? And the reason I like this question is because increasingly, people impacted by MS, families impacted by MS, unfortunately, practitioners who are involved in MS care are starting to recognize that it's not just about new spots on the MRI. It's not. It's not just about new MS attacks. It's not. It's about the slow, insidious progression of disability, a term that we call PIRA. So I'm going to type that in the chat, PIRA equals progression independent from relapse activity. So I'll throw that in the chat. And this PIRA is gaining a lot of attention in MS circles, which is a godsend. The reason it's a godsend is, number one, it happens. And it actually happens in most patients. Not just people that have progressive, so-called primary progressive MS or so-called secondary progressive MS. It happens in all patients impacted by MS in one shape or way or another. And our MS medicines are not awesome at slowing PIRA. That is a chink in our armor, and it's something that we're actively working on. At the Boster Center for MS, we're involved in multiple research trials trying to address, grapple, smash, crush PIRA. So what happens if you're on a medicine, and in this example, Mavenclad, and then you have PIRA? Well, that's not okay. And I think that it's worthwhile discussing doing something in addition. Now, Kate's question said, if you have progression on Mavenclad, would you consider adding Aubagio? And bluntly, I think that's a very nice idea. The reason is the way that Aubagio works. So Aubagio is a different disease-modifying therapy. It's a pill that you take once a day. It's a very well-tolerated pill, all things considered. And Aubagio is not amazing at slowing relapses. It's okay at it. It's not amazing at it. Aubagio is not amazing at shutting down new MRI lesions. It's okay at it. It's not great at it. But you know what Aubagio is good at? Slowing progression of neurological disability. You know what Aubagio is good at? Slowing brain volume loss. And so I think that it is reasonable, if on one drug we're seeing PIRA, to consider adding an Aubagio in the background. That's my personal opinion. It doesn't make me right. It just makes me really opinionated. But boy, I love that question. And so thank you for asking it. Now, there's a follow-up question by Dina. And Dina asks a really solid follow-up question saying, how is PIRA, progression independent from relapse activity, different from secondary progressive MS? So back in the ancient days of yesteryear, a very famous neurologist in New York came up with this idea that most people with MS have a relapsing phase where they have attacks, then they get better, and attacks, and they get better. And then they have a slow progression of disability. And if you imagine a graph, you could draw a line and say this was relapsing and this is progression. And that is not the way it actually works. All right, so that is a profound and gross underrepresentation of what's actually happening in MS. The reality is that people impacted by MS are at risk of attacks. And attacks occur more often when people are chronologically younger, like their birthday, their age. The younger the patient, the more likely they're going to have MS attacks. As a human with MS ages, the risk of attack goes down. Now, also, all people impacted by MS are at risk of progression, of PIRA. And it's not just later in the disease. younger people impacted by MS can experience PIRA early on. It's not as common, but it can happen. And so the reality is much more complex than those old graphs used to demonstrate, because it's not as if you have a period of, I'm trying to get in the camera, a period of just relapses and a period of just progression. You have a period where relapses are more prevalent and progression is less, and then the flip. So in my opinion, the term secondary progressive MS is BS. It's a bad term because I think it does the disease an injustice, and it doesn't help us adequately understand the underlying pathology. And I, for one, don't like to use the term secondary progressive MS in my clinical practice. If you have ever had an MS attack, ever, then you have a relapsing form of MS. And that, I think, is a fair definition. That was a great question. Thank you for asking. Oh, look, we're going to do an MS water challenge. So when I drink, you drink. And let me find the fun button. That was great. That is really, really delicious water. All right. Now, earlier on, before we got launched here, in the first half an hour lead up, I posed a question to the polling audience asking you guys if you would like me to provide some information about comprehensive MS care, sort of a 10,000-foot overview. And we voted, and 81% won the day. 81% of you said yes, that you would like a didactic lecture. So let me spend a few short 5, 6, 10 minutes, something like this, talking about comprehensive MS care. And let me just write this in the chat. Comprehensive MS care. All right. Belgrade Serbia is in the house. Thank you for being here. All right. So let's talk a little bit about comprehensive MS care. And what I mean by that is MS is a very, very complex interface of your immune system and your nervous system and sort of how they interact. And it's different for each person. And we can't always predict ahead of time exactly what that one human is going to need. And so I think it's very important that we have our head on straight and that we think about the overarching ideas of how we treat multiple sclerosis. I'm going to change the scene up a little bit. There's 188 of you that have jumped on for this didactic lecture on comprehensive MS care. So the first area that I think that we need to focus on is treating MS attacks. So we don't predict when you're going to have an attack, and attacks are seemingly random. You can go 10 years and not have an attack and then have one, or sometimes, unfortunately, people can have 2 attacks in 1 year. And an attack is not a planned for event. It's also not something that you need to go looking for. An attack will find you. I use the example of the front left tire of the car blowing up. So if your spouse is driving down the road and you're sitting shotgun in the front seat, you never turn to your spouse and casually say, "Honey, do you think the front left tire blew up?" That's not a conversation, because if the front left tire blows up, you don't need to ask. It's very, very clear to you. It's very clear to the driver. It's very clear to all the cars around you that there was this big explosion of the front left tire and the car is going everywhere. You don't have to ask. And if the front left tire didn't blow up, you don't have to ask because it's very clear it's not. MS attacks are like that. They will find you. And if you have a new neurological symptom that you haven't had in the past, and it's sticking around for longer than 24 hours, I think that the best practice is to reach out to your MS provider. Why do I say 24 hours? That's the 24-hour rule that I teach families impacted by MS, because new MS inflammatory disease activity is caused, by inflammation. Inflammation doesn't go away in a day. Think about it. Let's pretend that we got into a fisticuffs and you popped me in the jaw, right? When my face gets all puffy because you smacked me in my face. Now I've got this puffy face and I go to bed, I wake up in the morning. Guess what? It's still puffy. The reason it's still puffy is because it's inflamed, because you smacked me. That inflammation does not go away in a couple hours. It's going to stay inflamed for days, if not weeks. New MS disease activity is similarly caused by inflammation in the brain or spinal cord. And so if you manifest a new MS attack, it's not going to disappear in under a day. And this is a very, very helpful rule, I find. The reason is, when you're given the diagnosis of a chronic condition like multiple sclerosis, And then you have a symptom. Your head itches, right? So you got an itchy head. You're going to ask a rational person's question. Is the itchy head related to the diagnosis? That's a reasonable question. And you're going to become more sensitized to your own body. So for example, since I said the words itchy head, now my eyebrow is itching, now my ear is itching, just because I brought it up. And if I was recently diagnosed with MS, I might say, well, wait a second, is this in fact something I need to be concerned about? So I want you to ask yourself the question, how long has it gone on? Because if you've only had an itchy head for 30 seconds, you don't have to call me. If you've had some itching in this example for more than a day, now we're concerned that you might be having an MS attack. And what do I want you to do? I want you to phone a friend, or in fact, an MS neurologist. And I think a best practice is to be seen in clinic. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to make sure that you don't have an infection. So we're going to go fishing for an infection. We're typically going to do a urinalysis because we want to see if you have a UTI, the most common infection that I see in the setting of MS. And we're going to listen to your heart and lungs and see if you have a sinus infection. We will check for a fever, et cetera, et cetera. If we identify that you have an infection, then that neurological symptom is not a new MS attack. It's a different thing called a pseudo attack. And we're going to give you steroids and make you better. All right, so let's talk about a pseudo attack for a quick second. Pseudo is Greek for similar to, but it ain't. And a pseudo attack is a very, very real event. All right, it's a very real event. You really are having neurological symptoms. It's just not coming from a new MS inflammatory attack. It's coming from old areas of damage which have short-circuited because you've heated your core body temperature up, like when you have a urinary tract infection, like what Lisa has experienced in the past. If you look at her comment, she says that she's the UTI queen. Many, many of my patients are right there with you, Lisa. And if we have a UTI in the setting of MS, we can cause a reemergence of old symptoms. We treat the UTI with steroids and we make it better. Or excuse me, shame. We treat the UTI with antibiotics and then we make it better. Now, if you have a new neurological symptom and it's lasted for 24 hours, and we work you up for an infection and we do not find infection, now we're concerned about a genuine MS attack, and we can hasten your recovery with steroids. And when I say steroids, there's lots of different ways of administering steroids. We can, for example, give high-dose IV steroids. We can give IV steroids at my infusion center. We can give IV steroids at a local infusion center near you. We can sometimes have home health come into the home to give IV steroids, or we can use high-dose oral steroids, right? And so there's a lot of different ways of taking steroids. Some people listening right now say, well, Dr. Boster, I can't handle steroids. And there are other options that we can consider in those circumstances. For example, there's a medicine called ACTH, which is a gel that you inject under your skin, and it makes your body make its own steroids. We can also sometimes use a drug called IVIG. In severe MS attacks, we can actually admit the person and do a fancy procedure, which is called total plasma exchange or plasmapheresis. And all of these help hasten the recovery of an MS attack. One last comment about MS attacks before we move on to another aspect of comprehensive MS care is that if you're taking a disease-modifying therapy, which is intended to prevent attacks, and you have an attack, despite being on the therapy, it didn't work. That's called a breakthrough attack because the attack broke through the therapy. And it's kind of like saying if you're on an oral birth control pill and then you get pregnant, it didn't work. Because the goal of the birth control pill is to prevent an unplanned event, an unplanned pregnancy. And so if you got pregnant on that birth control pill, you'd be pretty cross about that. And you might not want to stay on that birth control. You might want to find a better birth control. Same thing with the MS drugs. If you're on an MS drug intended to prevent an MS attack, and gosh darn it, you have an attack, a breakthrough attack, then one of the things that we need to do is we need to revisit that medicine asking hard questions. Do we need to cut bait on this therapy and toss it to the curb and get a better therapy? Or are we going to choose to stay on the therapy with a zero tolerance policy where no more mulligans, no more shenanigans, anything that happens, and then we're going to boot the therapy out? And that's a very important conversation that I think you need to have every single time you have an attack on a drug. So, shifting gears as we continue to discuss comprehensive MS care, there's 198 of you that have jumped online. That's freaking amazing. Thank you very, very much. And to highlight the next aspect of comprehensive care, we'll switch to this fun scene. It's one of my favorites. It's the mirror scene. And let's talk about symptomatic management. So symptoms are things that suck. And when you have multiple sclerosis, you can accrue neurological symptoms. Sometimes you get the symptom because you have an MS attack, and I'll use an example of an MS attack where it feels like your left leg is burning, and then we treat the attack and it goes away 90%, which is good but not great because now you still have very mild burning of your left leg. You have a residual deficit and you can still feel a little bit of ouchie yah burning on your left leg. And maybe at times it kind of goes away and maybe times it comes back, particularly when you're really tired or when you're overheated. And sticking with this example, if that is not that big of a deal to you, then it's not that big of a deal to me, and we're not going to do anything about it. But if it is really uncomfortable and it's eroding the quality of your life, then I'm not okay with that, and then we're going to use symptomatic management to try to help that particular symptom. So for example, we might use a pain cream that you rub on your leg, or we might use CBD cream that you rub on your leg. Or we might take a pill for a neuropathic pain medicine. And there are a host of medicines that we can use to treat neuropathic pain in MS, things oftentimes which were invented for other purposes, like anti-seizure medicines and antidepressants can have pain properties. And so we might start you on a Lyrica or a gabapentin or a Tegretol or an amitriptyline. There's a whole host of medicines that we could use to try to quell the pain. I'll use another off-color example, one of my favorite examples, erectile function. It is no secret that we men, we adore our erections, we're big fans, and some men with multiple sclerosis can develop erectile dysfunction. And if a man with MS has erectile dysfunction and it bothers him, then I give him Viagra or Cialis. If a man with MS has erectile dysfunction and he doesn't care, I don't care. Because in this off-color example, treating erectile dysfunction doesn't slow down MS. It just improves Friday night, like a lot. And it's a quality of life issue. So as we think about comprehensive care for MS, yes, we want to treat attacks like we just talked about. And in a quick second, we're going to talk about slowing the disease down. But if we do both those things and you are miserable because of untreated or undertreated chronic symptoms, that's not okay. That's not doing our very best job. So for me to go home at night and look at my kid and say, today I did a good job, I really have to do two things. I have to slow your disease down, and in addition, I also have to treat chronic symptoms that suck. By the way, Jen McGraw just jumped online. She's an amazing OG moderator from the East Coast. Jen, thank you very much for being here and joining us today. We're in the middle of a quick didactic lecture about comprehensive MS care, and then of course we'll jump back to an Ask Me Anything. So, when we think about treating chronic symptoms in MS, I'm very, very interested in addressing invisible symptoms because I feel like they're oftentimes ignored, which is not okay with me. And there's two big categories of invisible symptoms that I want to pay attention to. Number one, the up there's. You know, the up there's. Energy, mood, thinking, and memory. These are all things that occur kind of roped together with a rope and tied together tightly. Because if your cog fog is a problem, it's going to make you depressed. If you are depressed, that's going to contribute to fatigue. If you are fatigued, you're not going to think as clearly. And so if we identify one of those three as not good, it will pull the other two down. But here's the kicker. If we treat one of the three, it lifts the other two up. And so I'm always very keen on exploring if people are having trouble with cog fog, if people are having trouble with pathologic fatigue, and if people are having difficulties with mood. And if we find those things, boy, we treat them. Now, another moderator just jumped online, none other than multiple sclerosis. Even so, it is well, a fantastic friend of the channel and a gal that's got her own YouTube channel par excellence. So if you have not checked out her channel, definitely make sure that you have a chance to do so. Thank you for joining us, even so it is well. We're in the midst of a quick didactic lecture on comprehensive MS care. Thus far, we've talked about identifying and treating MS attacks and pseudo-attacks. We've just started to talk about treating chronic symptoms that suck. And then we'll move on to the last topic. But sticking with chronic symptoms, I talked about the invisible symptoms of the up theres, but we also have to talk about the down theres. You know, the down theres: bowel, bladder, and bedroom. And if you would like to make a human really, really unhappy, mess with the down theres, cause a guy to pee his pants, cause a gal to poop her pants, cause someone to have difficulty with orgasm or difficulties with bedroom, and you will find a very, very upset human. And so I think it is paramount that we treat the down theres, just like we treat the up theres. As it relates to bladder, very commonly we can see overactive bladder with urgency, like sprinting to the bathroom, worried you won't get there in time, or frequency, constantly getting up to go to the bathroom, nocturia, where you're getting up multiple times a night to go potty, even incontinence, where you can lose control of your bladder. We can see frequent urinary tract infections. We can see urinary retention, where you can't empty all the way, and you pee and stand up, and then you gotta sit right back down and pee some more. And bladder symptoms are amenable to all kinds of different treatments. I've got lotions and potions for bladder. I've got supplements for bladder. I have expert urologists at the ready who can help with your bladder. So if you're having a chronic symptom of bladder, do not accept that. Get ye to your doctor so that you can talk about options for making things better. Periwinkle just shares a secret weapon for treating pelvic floor problems. Any of the down theres are amenable to pelvic floor physical therapy. And so Periwinkle, I agree with you, pelvic floor physical therapy is a game changer. Now, we also talk about bowel function. And it turns out that people impacted by MS tend to have jacked up bowels. We know that the microbiome in MS is not normal. All right, so we see this term dysbiosis, which means you got the wrong gut flora for reasons that we don't know about. And that can really change gut motility. So very oftentimes, we'll see slowed gut motility where people have really bad constipation. And I have some patients that unfortunately poop once a week, and they have a lot of pain and a lot of spasticity and increased frequency of urinary tract infections, all because they're full of stool. Or we can see sort of like an IBS situation where people have diarrhea, or they can kind of vacillate back and forth. In other words, it's really, really common for us to see bowel problems in MS. And there's a bunch of things that we can do to control bowel function. It all starts with you bringing it to the awareness of your clinician so they can help you game it out. Likewise, it's very common that people impacted by MS can have difficulty with bedroom functioning. That can involve the interest or arousal to get excited. That can involve obtaining, maintaining an erection for gentlemen, or obtaining and maintaining lubrication for a woman. And that unfortunately can entail difficulties with achieving orgasm. And at the Boster Center for MS, we do not shy away from the down theres. On the contrary, it is our goal to help you poop, pee, and have meaningful intercourse as very much as we can. And so there's all kinds of different ways of helping with that. So that's a quick summary of the concepts of treating symptomatic management in MS. The last focus that I want to have, I said there were 3 focuses to comprehensive MS care. The first being treating attacks when they occur. The second being treating symptoms that we have that suck. And the last one, the important one, the big daddy, is slowing MS down. And when I talk about slowing MS down, I have a silly phrase that I want you to be 5 for 5 in your fight against MS. What does it mean to be 5 for 5 in your fight against MS? It means that Dr. B can think of 5 things that help slow the disease down. So I want you doing all 5 all the time. So let's go through the 5 things that we want to do to slow MS down right after the MS Water Challenge. That is delicious. Woo-wee! All right, there's 200 of you that have stuck it out and they're still online. Thank you very much for that. To each and every one of you, it's an honor to have you here with me today as we talk about how to slow MS down and being 5 for 5 in your fight against MS. Number 1 of the 5 is to not smoke stuff. So smoking doubles the individual's risk to develop MS, which is insane. And if you have MS and you smoke, you can speed up your disease by about 50%, which is more insane. The good news is, if you quit smoking, it slows the MS back down. And so one of the biggest things that you can do to make your disease worse is smoke. And one of the biggest things you can do to slow your disease down is to not smoke. And I'm not just talking about tobacco, I'm talking about anything carbon-based that you light on fire and suck in, like cannabis. I don't want you smoking that stuff. Also, beyond just smoking, any cardiovascular risk factor could risk making your MS worse. So if you have a high blood pressure, a cholesterol that's not treated, if you have an uncontrolled diabetes, if you're morbidly obese, if you do not have an active lifestyle, if you are an excessive drinker of alcohol, all of these things make the arteries in your brain get harder faster. They make your brain shrink faster, and they can contribute to faster neurological disability, making the human being worse. So number one, in being 5 for 5 in your fight against MS, is to not smoke stuff and to treat cardiovascular risk factors. We're going to switch the scene up as we go on to number 2 in the 5 for 5 schema. Number 2 is to exercise as part of your lifestyle. Now, when I say exercise as part of your lifestyle, that's a sentence that I've crafted very carefully. Because when you do something as part of your lifestyle, you're not rewarded when you do it, and you're not punished when you don't do it, right? So I, for example, have a lifestyle of showering most every morning. I don't talk about it. I don't tweet out, awesome shower, washed my back. I just do it. And if for some reason I didn't shower in the morning, I would just shower in the afternoon. It's just part of my lifestyle. I need you to have a lifestyle of exercise like that. And exercising with MS is not easy. And sometimes it can be downright difficult. Sometimes we need to get help from expert neurophysical therapists, and there's a lot of expertise. If you do not know one of my good friends, Dr. Gretchen Howley. Dr. Gretchen Howley is a physical therapist par excellence. She has an amazing online presence and has helped many, many of my patients through her virtual educational offerings, the Missing Link. And so if you don't know Gretchen Howley, definitely check Dr. Gretchen out. She is a rock star, and she has helped many, many of my patients figure out how to exercise and be physically active and mobile and moving through excellent utilization of neurophysical therapy. So number 2 is to exercise as part of your lifestyle. Number 3 is to eat smart. So eating smart is sometimes frustrating and not fun. And for those of you listening today from the United States of America, generally speaking, our diets are abominable. Mass-produced, heavily processed, sugar-laden, fatty foods that are fried are not good for us. And if we want to live our best life, despite having MS, we really need to eat smart. And so let's talk a little bit about how you eat smart. And by the way, even so it is, well, thank you for putting Gretchen's link in the chat. For those of you that don't know Dr. Gretchen, click that link. So when we want to eat smart, we start off by upping our water game. And that's part of the reason that we always do an MS water challenge. When I drink, you drink. Drink up, guys. When I say up the water game, I really mean I want you to increase your water intake, all right? And so I'm looking for people to try to approach 100 ounces of water a day, which is a lot of water. And if you're not used to drinking that much water, you want to start easy breezy cover girl. I want you to add a glass of water with each of 3 meals. So you're having breakfast and you've got your coffee and your orange juice and your eggs and your bacon and a glass of water. When it's time for lunch, you're going to have your lunch. You have an iced tea. You have something that you're going to eat, a salad, something delicious, and a glass of water. Same thing with dinner. Then, if you add a glass of water between breakfast and lunch, and if you add a water between lunch and dinner, we are well on our way to being adequately hydrated. I would submit to you that when you start increasing your water game, I wouldn't even worry about the size of the glass, right? I would just try to get myself to practice, and then I would slowly increase. The second thing I want you to do is supplement your vitamin D under the supervision of your treating physician. So I'm not telling you to run out and take lots and lots of vitamin D unsupervised because I don't want you to hurt yourself. It turns out when you look at the clinical data that higher levels of vitamin D correlate with better MS outcomes. So less attacks, less new spots, less progression, less brain volume loss, all the things that I'm interested in doing. And it turns out that low levels of vitamin D, and I'm talking about a vitamin D 25OH level under 50, correlate with worse MS outcomes, like more spots and more attacks and more progression and more brain volume loss and stuff that's bad. And so I think it's a best practice to supplement vitamin D. Now, how do you supplement vitamin D? Well, one way is you take your clothes off or you go in a halter top out in full sun for a period of 15 minutes and you will absorb 5,000 international units of D3, which is typically the dose that I ask people to take. But if you live in Ohio, your neighbors might call the police on you, or you might get frostbite in areas that are very uncomfortable because it's really cold here some of the year. And so that's not in the cards for most people. Another way that you can get vitamin D is simply by eating certain foods like egg yolks and by eating like really fatty fish. The problem is the amount of egg yolks or the amount of fatty fish that you would have to eat is like astronomically high. So a 3.5 ounce portion of salmon, which is like a typical dinner portion of salmon, is 500 international units, and we need typically 5,000. So you'd have to have like a lot of those in order to get the dose way up. And it's unrealistic for most of us to be able to get our vitamin D supplementation only through diet. And so oftentimes I ask people to reach for a vitamin D3 supplement. And notice I said D3 and not D2. D3 is the more biologically active form of vitamin D. It's better absorbed in the human body. It's actually what your body makes when skin is touched by sun. That chemical reaction creates D3. And so when you go to the health food store or the supermarket and you buy some D3, that's what I want you to get. And your neurologist can check levels. So I check vitamin D levels in my patients once to twice a year. And I'm looking for that level, the 25OH level, to be above 50 but below 100. That's the sweet spot that I want you in. Now, remember, we're talking about how to eat smart. And so far we've talked about the water game, and we've also talked about upping your vitamin D. Now it gets really, really hard, because now is when we have to get into foods to avoid. I double dog dare you to avoid heavily processed foods. Any food that has high fructose corn syrup, I double dog dare you to remove sugar-laden foods, fried foods, fast foods, diet foods, and importantly, any food that has an ingredient in it that you can't pronounce. Because if you are past third grade or even maybe first grade, you know all the food words. Like, you know, like what chicken is and broccoli and asparagus. Like, you know all those words. And so if you're looking at a word that's on an ingredients and it's dimethylfrabahaba-hoogity-hobbity-hobbity, that's not a food. That's a chemical, and I don't want you to eat that. All right. So if you don't think that the food you eat influences your disease, you're wrong. Like, just simply put, that's not true. And if you don't believe me, try cleaning up your diet for 1 month, and you will discover some amazing, amazing things. Now, I see the moderators in the chat throwing some love. If you don't know 4QMS, this guy has got a rock star status diet, and his YouTube channel has a lot of really cool recipes in it. So that's something worthwhile checking out. We see Carl Marston says Team OMS, Overcoming MS, is one of the many diets that are available for MS. It's one of my favorite MS diets, if you're going to follow one. But I really feel like you can do justice by avoiding the foods that I mentioned. Now, that was number 3 out of 5 for 5 in your fight against MS. Number 4 is mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is not a term that I was taught when I was in school. Nowadays, I'm to understand that we actually teach mindfulness in school, which is really, really cool. I define mindfulness as being in the present moment without prejudice. So participating in an activity and not worrying about what's happening tomorrow, okay? Doing an activity and not thinking about something that happened in the past. Literally just being in the present moment. Being in the present moment is amazing. And unfortunately, many red-blooded Americans don't do that almost at all during the course of the day. In Western culture, we are seemingly rewarded if you can drive a car and talk on the cell phone and eat a cheeseburger all at the same time, because then you're being very, very efficient. Here's the thing. MS is worsened by stress. So stressors worsen multiple sclerosis outcomes, which sucks, but it's true. And learning to manage stress is a very critical skill to living your best life despite having MS. Now, notice I didn't say remove stress, because I freaking hate it when doctors say dumb things like, remove the stress, honey, as if you could like cut it out and say, oh, okay, there's no more stress. That's silly. But what you can do is you can learn how to manage stress. And a great way to learn to manage stress is to practice mindfulness 5 to 10 minutes every day. So many of you that have followed the channel know that I have a mindful activity after my morning shower. I sit on the floor of the shower with my eyes closed, Indian style, with the water running, and I breathe. Now, some of you are going to throw hate in the chat and say, you shouldn't sit there with the water running. Okay, well, I choose to do this. It's actually a very, very important aspect to every one of my mornings. I wake up early to make sure that I have time to do this. It's 5 to 10 minutes, and I sit there and I breathe. And at first, I was really bad at it. Like I would think to myself, Boster, go to work. Get up. What are you doing? But I learned to just let those thoughts go. And I learned to start to listen to the water and to listen to my breath. And it is a remarkable moment in my day. When I stand back up, I am energized and I am ready to rock and roll, to go to the Boster Center for MS and to whoop butt and take names, stomping on multiple sclerosis and helping people and families live better lives. And so you don't have to use Aaron's shower meditation technique. Almost anything can become mindful. So for example, right now I'm doing this live stream with you. And I am connected to you, and I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm not thinking about something I missed yesterday. I'm practicing mindfulness in a way, and I want you to do that for 5 minutes every single day. Now, we're talking about being 5 for 5 in your fight against MS, and number 5, in my strong opinion, is to take the most effective disease-modifying therapy that you're comfortable taking and make sure that it's working. And so I crafted that sentence very carefully because the most effective disease-modifying therapy might not be the one that you're comfortable with, and that's fair. And so we want to find the most effective drug that you're comfortable taking because you're the one that has to take it. And then we have to make sure that it's working. So how do we do that? Well, number 1, we talk to you. We're listening for the litmus test of life. We're listening to see if you've had an MS attack, God forbid. Number 2, we examine you, and we run you through the MS Olympics, whether that be the timed 25-foot walk or the symbol digit modality test or the 9-hole peg test, or whether that be an old school neuro exam. We want to do some testing to see if functionally you're as good as you used to be. And thirdly, we like to get MRIs because looking at MRIs is a rock star way of looking at structure. And so when we're thinking about comprehensive MS care, we need to be thinking about treating attacks and pseudo-attacks. We need to think about treating symptoms that suck. And we need to slow the disease down by being 5 for 5. And that concludes my didactic lecture on comprehensive MS care. Thank you to 214 of you that have saw fit to jump online. Wow, that's really, really cool. Let's do a quick MS water challenge, and then we're going to answer some more questions. Woo-wee, that's good. Delicious. Okay, let's take a look at some questions. So Tom says, well, come on, Boster. When you say fried food, are you talking about deep frying or pan frying? So I'm talking about deep frying. And there are healthier ways of cooking than frying, but I am talking about like deep fried stuff, like onion rings. All right, let's take another question. So Paris asks, how might having ADHD impact MS? So ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, is something that we see a lot of children and teenagers have. And adults can also have ADHD or ADD, attention deficit disorder. And here's the tricky thing. People impacted by MS can develop difficulties with attention, which looks like ADHD. So a lot of my adult MS patients end up getting adult ADHD diagnoses when in reality, it may just be a manifestation of their multiple sclerosis. But here's the important point. The way that we treat MS cog fog and difficulties with attention is the same way that we treat ADHD, same medicines. And so my thought here, Paris, is simply bring to the attention of your MS provider, hey, I'm having trouble concentrating, I'm having trouble focusing, it's impacting my ability to get through my day, because we can use stimulant medicines, stimulants, to help trick you into being more awake and more effective and attending better and performing better at school and at work and at home. And so these stimulant medicines can be very, very powerful. We're talking about things like modafinil or armodafinil. Trade names in the United States, that would be Provigil and Nuvigil. Or we can use amphetamine salts, things like Adderall, Ritalin, Vyvanse, Focalin, etc. And these medicines require prescriptions from your doctor, and they have side effects, so of course you have to talk to your doctor about if that's a good option for you, and they can be revolutionary in helping slow down your multiple sclerosis. My name's Aaron Boster. This has been the July Ask Me Anything live stream from the Boster Center for Multiple Sclerosis. There's 207 of you that are online right now. Thank you to each and every one of you, and thank you for supporting this channel. If you've enjoyed this live stream, do me a favor and click the like button. Write a comment in the comments section. These efforts teach the YouTube algorithm that you really like this content and help push it out so more families impacted by MS can benefit. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. We're almost at 72,000 subscribers. I never thought I would see that ever, and I'm really wondering whether we can get to 75. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. And if you have a friend or family member or someone who's in your MS village that's not familiar with this growing global online village or this YouTube channel, please ask them to join. Now, I'm going to continue to pump out new MS content. I'm making a video every Monday morning or every other Monday morning, and I'll continue to do these live streams as long as you guys find them to be valuable. As always, this is Aaron Boster saying be safe, and thank you for learning about MS with me. So until next month's live stream, take care, be awesome.